All right, let's start the meeting. First thing, let's sign the attendance sheet. So somebody send that around. Hey, let's start the meeting. Okay, take the attendance sheet and send that around. Also, if your name has behind it that you need to sign out a registration, Mary is here today and your name is, did you sign one of the registrations forms before?
I thought I did, but I can do it again.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know. Sometimes they'll send it around and ask for one and you know you've signed it, but do it anyway. Carl, count the Zoom people as part of our meeting. Okay. There are some clamps back there that Gary had left over. If you need clamps, go grab a couple, whatever you want. There were some. They're gone. They're gone. There were some live edge pieces. They're gone, Roger?
I think so.
All right. All right.
There's some balsa wood too. Anyway.
Some wood that you brought in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balsa wood.
All right. Yeah, check that out if you need something like that. Bruce is donating it. Some people, let's see, there are some name tags back there. And Katie, you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, anybody who asked for a name tag before, Kellen, yours is there. And
Go ahead,
there are
grab
8
it.
blanks left, and we can always order more, but if there's people who would like a magnet name tag, just give me your name.
All right. Yeah, if you don't have a name tag, tell Katie, she'll get you one. There's also 3 copies of Sawdust Magazine back there. Chair here. And I copied them into my computer. So if you want the copies, the actual original copies, go ahead and take them. That's fine. I've got a record. Broken saw blades, Dave gave. A group of us went to his funeral visitation there on he passed away on February 21st, and on March 9th, his funeral was in Chaska, and we went out there for that. Warren had made a plaque, and we gave that to his sons. And that was the only broken saw blades we've had. Any new members here today that haven't been here before? Kellen, you're back again, but you're not a new member. All right. Thursday, just this last Thursday, a group of us went to Presbyterian Homes, who are our neighbors just down the street. It's not a nursing home, it's everything, I think. All the way from
a retirement community.
Retirement community, okay, good description. And so it was John, Katie, Carl, myself, and Warren was there. And Carl did a good job of getting the camera onto Warren's saw, and we had it up on the projector, and it had a very nice projector, so it was very clear. And you could see that all throughout their, it was their chapel.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a multi-use, yeah, that chapel. So we're up there, the cross is behind us. But we did okay, and we didn't make a big mess and leave it for him. In fact, the pastor there, Pastor Steve, he came and helped us set everything up.
Did you happen to record it?
No.
I took some pictures, but we didn't record it all. And we had about probably 20
It was
people.
it was a slide deck that Gary guys had put together that we cut down into not the details. So probably about 25 slides. And we just talked, yes. So we just talked about that, and then Warren did did some cutting. So nothing of real interest. Yep.
Yeah, there was maybe 20 residents, and these were men that were invited to this.
Oh, there's more than 20.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of thought maybe about 20.
One.
And well, they
No, besides me.
as the activity director put it, the vastly outnumbered men. And so they do this thing every about once a month. So they'll have something. And so I said, well, we're your neighbors, we're glad to do it. And she wanted to know if there was any charge. And I said, no, absolutely not. So it went well. coming up next Monday, they're having the community center planning meetings here, and they want input from the leaders of each group. So Katie, myself and Warren, we're all gonna go to the 3:30 meeting on Monday and give them our 2 cents worth. So if anybody has any ideas, let us know. Warren had the idea that we should probably have a room maybe next to the shop, because they're probably gonna build a nice wood shop, I would guess, in the new building. So if we were next to this wood shop, we could maybe have access to a scroll saw there.
Good.
Or the room, if they build it, I was gonna suggest that they put a hard floor that could be swept up, and then we could bring in our own saws once in a while if we wanted to. And then a little bit bigger room than we have here, so maybe a room that would hold 40 or 50 people. And just in case somebody else, like let's say Rockler Woodcraft, wanted to come in and demonstrate something to somebody from the wood shop. Because this won't just be for the seniors anymore, this will be for the whole community. So they're probably gonna have quite a nice wood shop, I would guess. And so if you had a group come in, they could demonstrate something in this room too. And it would be good, because you could demonstrate wood cutting and
I'd like to see big screen
a projector screen.
and a camera mounted on the ceiling that points down.
Down.
Yeah, so we could have, you
Like
know,
in that other room.
so,
Oh,
so we could point to have somebody working underneath it and they could see, you could project that onto the TV.
so if you had a saw, you could actually.
See down.
Well, okay, let's break that down.
It'd be nice to do that, but we could do that with this. That's what we did at the homes.
Yesterday.
We just use this to project that up onto a well-worn cut. We pointed that out.
Works.
So that worked too.
Yeah,
Well,
but
let's-
how many of these do you wanna buy, you know, cause technically, if you get to really get a good thing, you need 2 cameras.
You're thinking about what Rockler has set up with the multi-camera thing.
Oh.
I'm thinking about what when that woodworkers have.
Oh,
Yeah,
If you've seen theirs,
Oh.
they can look down and they can look from the side simultaneously.
yeah, yeah.
So,
That gets a little tricky though, because you actually have to have some software that's running that, somebody running it, switching it, manually switching it or.
Well, we can throw it out there. You never know how much money they want to spend on
Yeah.
things, but
you can see the
yeah.
mistakes that we made. Well, that's part of it.
all right. Steve, secretary, do you have anything to add to your newsletter notes? Okay. Helen, how about our treasurer's report?
Want me to stand up? So we collected $260 in dues last month, giving us a total of $3,482.47. We had no expenses last month.
Okay. And are we supposed to have an audit once a year or something? Yes.
Yes, I believe
Who
so.
would be willing to do that with Helen?
This means balancing a checkbook, right?
That could be something that could be done right after the meeting or something. Doesn't
Yeah,
take very
it
long.
doesn't take long.
Okay, maybe next
Next
month,
month,
maybe?
sure.
Roger,
I've done it before, I can.
all right. You're pretty smart.
Thank you. That's comment I had all day.
Why did everybody laugh?
They're all with me.
With you, Raj. Okay, Troy, how about a preview of the May meeting program and anything on the tool library class coming up?
Sure, for the May meeting, we do have a guest speaker. Let me pull up the information on it really quick here. Screw up something here. Okay, so we have Carol Klausner is coming. So Carol is a scroll saw artist who lives down near Rochester, and he's known for making fretwork clocks. So Mike Snyder actually sent me his information. Mike knows Carol, and
Yep.
sounds like Carol spoke at a wood carvers meeting some time ago. So big thanks to Mike for sending me the information. I contacted Carol. He's actually going to come up with Mike next for the May meeting and give a nice presentation. He's got a slideshow to talk about his work. He said he also did a PBS station did a segment about him a few years ago. He's gonna show that as well, kind of gives a background of what he does. But the interesting thing is, some of his stuff is huge. He's got these just huge clocks. And what Mikey told me is that he actually had to add an addition onto his house to hold it. So I've seen a few pictures. I haven't seen too much on it. I kind of left. I'm just like, you know what? I'll see when everyone else does. But it sounds like it's gonna be really interesting. So it's everyone. I definitely plan on being here next month. We're gonna have a really neat speaker. Oh, he's gonna bring up a few of his smaller clocks. So he said he wouldn't bring the giant one, but he would bring the smaller stuff. So that's coming up, and then April 27th, this month, we have another class at the Minnesota Tool Library in Minneapolis. I do have 5 teachers, including myself. We have a maximum of 10 people, which is 2 students per person. So I have enough people, enough saws at this point. If anyone else is interested and you want to come along, that's great. More the merrier. I'd say the maximum we can hold in that space is maybe about 8 saws would be the total. So if you want to come bring us, all the saws I have are spoken for. So they have a saw there that we donated. I have 2 more that I'm bringing, and I have 2 other people bringing saws. So I have 5 saws. So if anyone else wants to come and bring a saw, that would be great. Just more people, we can get people through doing more cutting. So, but yeah, that's coming up. We're going to be doing a split class this time. Because last time it was a class of all new people. I don't think anyone we had there had really touched us on before.
Yeah.
Right. And they did really good. They did a great job.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of fun. They really seemed to enjoy it. So this class is advertised as, if you're new, great, come on in. If we're at the other class or you've had more experience, we're gonna do something a little bit more advanced. So we've got some simpler, easier projects for the newer people. And I've got some more complex projects for the people that have a little more experience. I have a compound cut sign that I should have brought my example with, that we'll be making, along with there's more like inside cuts and things like that.
Now, Tim, you were at that last class.
Yeah.
Are you gonna come to the next one?
I haven't decided yet, but I was thinking about it.
Okay. The other one went pretty well, didn't it?
For sure.
Yeah, way to go.
Yeah, we got a member out of it.
All right, and Troy says you got a saw.
Yeah,
And he told you about a saw and you got one, so that's good.
We can always
It's
use
easier.
more saws.
What?
We can always use more saws.
Yeah.
Roger, it's certainly easier with the saw.
I was gonna bring a coping saw.
Okay, TLC toy report, Roger.
Okay, we had, cars, we had 207 brought in last month. And, for the year, it's at 694. Paintables, we had 310. And for the year, we got 828. And, for this next month, we've got to get some stuff for, July. So I've got some patterns here. I've got them back there. This one here is made out of popple. It's a little stronger wood. Keeps it from breaking off here. Otherwise, if you do it in pine, it's fine if you just cut this straight across. No problem. Then I got 2 smaller ones. These can both be done on pine. But the patterns are back there. I got some templates, so help yourself. But we gotta have them turned in by next month. So, and then also we can do flowers as well. We got 2 different tulip patterns that we can do as well. So, but I think we're doing quite well. And also we got this isn't with TLC Toys so much, but we've got a Scroll Saw Magazine and Craft. They contacted us and they want us to get together an article to put in their magazine. So a few of us are working on that right now. And we'll get that sent in to them. So if anybody's got pictures, I think Mike's got quite a few.
Yeah, whatever you need.
And we're gonna pull this together and we'll probably have a article in their magazine, which should be really neat. So,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you, Roger. How many people have made something for TLC Toys, even one toy? I mean, almost everybody here has pretty much made that. So I mean, thanks to everybody for the work on this.
Easter was a big hit.
Yeah, they gave away everything and
Yeah, and then they wanted more.
wanted more even.
So
Wow,
I've been busy with that.
yeah. So we've done real well with this and I'm sure they appreciate it. What?
She was just,
Oh,
I just walked in.
you're just visiting and,
Yeah, my father's Charlie Bradley, I don't know if anyone remembers.
Oh,
him.
yeah,
I have his very, very top of the line scroll saw
yeah,
that I don't know how to use.
An eclipse, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
I took pictures of
Oh.
it this morning. It's been sitting in my garage since he passed. I want to keep retaining ownership of it, but I want to donate it to the scrollers so they could use it and teach me how to use it. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We got a couple.
Katie, she needs a name tag.
Do you guys have a room where you store stuff when you use them, or you just talk about stuff here?
We
we
somebody
pretty
might
much
have
use,
come to your shop. Those aren't easy to transport.
Well, I would just like park it at Creekside. I'm bringing oh,
No,
you don't, darn it. Okay,
we all pretty much have our own scroll saws and then, so we don't really go anywhere and cut. We just
Okay.
cut at home.
But they do have a shop here.
They do have a shop.
they have
and
a
you
wood
might-
shop. I can see if they can fit it in there.
They have a wood shop. We're in the process of, they're gonna build a new community center. And so this building will be torn down, so this probably only be here maybe another year. But then the new community center will be up in 2027,
Okay,
and John, that's that great big machine. You've got this
Yeah.
cast iron and it's
Yeah, that's an eclipse.
a really a
yes,
nice,
this is electronic fancy
it's a really
modern.
heavy, nice
Yeah.
saw.
It's been covered up with garbage bags and stuff, so it's been kept clean. He took good care of it, but he's been gone for a while and I have several little small ones that I can do stuff with, but I want to learn how to use that. I
Well,
wanted to come in before you guys were done for the year.
oh yeah, we got a couple meetings left with
So
John.
you don't wanna hang on to it? You wanna hang on, if you wanna hang on to it, I have an eclipse, Katie does, we can come over
Okay.
and show you how to run the thing.
Right now, my brother has stored everything he ever owned in our garages and they're packed to the door. I had to climb over things to get to it, which is why I wanted to get it out of there so it'd be safe.
Oh, I don't know where you put it.
Okay,
So the only idea that I'd offer up is the tool library. I went through a training class. I belong to the tool library.
okay.
Might be something you could donate there and it would be at the tool library.
Where's that at?
But if you wanted to use it, it's in Northeast Minneapolis.
Yeah,
In St. Paul. Yeah,
Okay,
in
yeah.
St. Paul. Oh,
Where
it's
do you
St. Paul,
live?
right. So it's a group.
St. Paul?
Oh, okay, okay.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Just an idea.
I'm a custodian at Westwood, 2.5 blocks from that school where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
so
So,
you're close here.
oh yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think John or Katie, maybe get your name and address and
yes.
phone
If
number.
you
and
got
they
a
could
piece of
come
paper,
over
someone
and
could
help
write
you
down
here.
my
Sure.
phone number and stuff. I would be happy to talk to anyone.
They'll give you theirs.
Thank you.
We'd be glad to do that.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
We'd certainly be glad to help you out. Oh, Roger, I wanted one more thing from you, the Rockler cutting days, or is this 70th anniversary thing gonna kind of take the place of that for us this spring?
I haven't heard back from them.
Yeah,
I was gonna call Patrick over there at Maplewood and I haven't heard anything. They're gonna go 3 weekends.
well,
And I told them the first weekend of the month, we won't be there.
yeah,
And, so we've got to get more information on that as well.
yeah, so it kind of.
So we would be able to do 2 out of the 3. And,
But it probably wouldn't be cutting either, though.
that I don't know.
Unfortunately, I do want to say Charlie was always one of our favorite members. He was,
Absolutely.
Just a great guy and just really missed him with the passed on. Yeah, talented and he never saw a scrap of wood. There's never such thing as a scrap of wood.
I'm that way with letters. Yeah.
Oh, we have fun and.
Yeah, oh, he was
So do
great.
I mean, Dad showed me how to scroll saw when I was little, but I was always into sewing more than that, but. I got married a couple of years ago and my husband is a woodworker, but he's a period woodworker. He doesn't use any of the modern equipment.
Oh.
But he's planes and everything.
Wow.
We do fur trade reenactment now. But he's got my number. Anyone that I mean, I've got so many tools of my father's. My brother wanted to sell it immediately, get money for it.
Yeah,
And I absolutely refuse to let it go away,
yeah,
but I need to learn how to make use of it. So-
yeah.
And thank you for letting me interrupt you guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, stick around if you want.
Charlie,
Yeah.
I think he had a lot of the gear that he used in his radios.
Yes, he did.
You still have that? Is that?
We did have a flatbed that was piled this high of it. And my brother decided to fill the garage with stuff and went like this against it. I don't know how much of it is left, if it's still usable, but I would happily find it a home.
Well, you need to be a new member and then you can get rid of all this stuff. We'll come around, we'll help you, train you to use the saw.
Got my phone number, send me information.
All right,
I work second shift, so I can try to get in.
all right. Well, we'll look for you next month.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
bye. New member.
Interesting.
You never know what you're.
Yeah.
Saying stuff then.
Box of
Yeah,
chocolate.
back to that
Box of
rocker, we're
chocolates,
gonna have to
yeah.
get hold of Patrick and find out
What they want.
whether he wants us to bring saws or just what the deal is.
Yeah,
This is already in May,
yeah, this is.
Yeah.
first.
First
Yeah.
3 weekends in May.
true, and it's for sure. They want.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
But,
70th
like I told him,
anniversary.
the first month or the first of the month, we won't be there because we have our meeting. And he said, that's fine. If you can make 2 of them, that'd be great. So
So we may just be going and just talking to people, not,
that could be,
not cutting anything, yeah.
or, you know, they've got a scroll saw there. I know at the Maplewood store, we could move that over where we're at,
Yeah,
you know, so they would know what it is.
all right. Katie?
So, to follow up on this, we don't know how many people we need, we don't know. You
No,
don't
if
even
they're
have any
gonna be
volunteer.
cutting, you know, I don't know.
Yet to be determined.
Yeah, we'll have to
Well,
find that out.
We gotta almost know by the next meeting.
When
because
is it?
Yes,
Early
Yeah,
May.
the second and
Yeah.
third weekend of May, that's what it would be.
first, yeah,
Maybe somebody could send out a note when you find out, Roger,
Yeah.
middle of
Yeah.
April, so that you can do some
Give a
planning.
little notice. All right, Katie, the Girl Scout, class.
Okay. For those of you who are relatively new, every year for the last, 3 years? This will
at
be,
least that.
this will be year 4, I think, maybe.
This
4,
is
5,
for,
Yes. In August, we go up to, a camp near Forest Lake. And we participate in the conference for Girl Scout leaders. And I was gonna bring a trefoil, but I forgot everything this morning. But we have a class for the leaders, 8 people in the class, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And we have them cut out a trefoil, which is the Girl Scout logo. John designed it, or he didn't design it. He did the first one. The Girl Scout logo is,
I think someone's got a small.
oh, look at that. Well, we make bigger ones of this, but they're about this big. Aren't they wonderful? It's a 3-piece project, and everybody gets to cut out one of these themselves in the class. They get a goodie bag that has a finished one in it and one to cut out or not. I can't remember.
well, we decided not to.
We decided not to.
That's what
Okay,
we
so
decided.
they'll have one to cut out in the class, and then they'll have a finished one. In the class, they don't paint them, but they do cut them out and take them home. It's the most popular class of the whole conference. I get that message every time I talk to them. It fills up right away, and it's a lot of fun to do. We bring up 8 saws, and we have 1 North Star scroller per student or 2.
Mhm.
You always use volunteers. So I would like people to think about it. Do you remember the date, August?
Weekend in August.
The 3rd?
August 17th here.
Yeah, it's
The 17th.
I've got down.
Okay, so it's a Saturday, and I'll pass around a thing. If you want to come, if you want to come just to observe, that's fine. But if you will come and and help, either bring a saw or just help the students learn. Cut out the thing.
And
Anything
it's a
else?
lot of fun too.
Oh, it is a lot of fun. They love it. They have a good time.
I'll be there, Katie, and I have an extra saw, so if there's someone that can't come. If they wants to come but can't bring a saw, I can bring two. I do have two saws to bring, so. We have, so you'll have at least one extra saw there, so, because I know for some people, depending on your saw, it might not be easy to get out or bring it in. For me, mine are easily accessible, I'll bring them in. I'll be bringing one for myself and an extra saw.
I'll pass it around. Does somebody have a paper I can pass around?
I get it.
Yeah, it's a nice setup there, at least the last couple times, because you're underneath the roof now. We weren't in that mosquito ridden shed down there. That was kind of tough, but this one's all right.
I got it, then
It's a decent setup and plenty of room. Okay, Don Gore would like to talk about the state fair and the Cruisers Car Club. Yep, you've got a lot of stuff.
Actually, it's not about the cruisers are gonna be in a class. So let me start out first with this thing. Now, you mentioned Johnny Carlson before. I just want to show you what John does. Now, he makes these and he donates them to the North Star Boy and Girl Scout Museum in North St. Paul. And as you know, John makes very nice jewelry also. So this is nice jewelry. I happened to go there to buy some gifts for a niece and nephew. Came apart here. But this is a moose puzzle. This is also something John cuts for the museum, and they sell them. I bought them at their museum. Now, stuck in here. So when I was there, they found out that I had come in and helped them cut pine wood derby cars. So it turns out that this summer, they have a cruisers club that has classic cars that comes in and they display them up and down the streets in North St. Paul up there. And they're gonna have an adults only build a pine wood derby car. And of course, they asked me to come and bring my saw so that these cruisers would have something, somebody to cut some saw wood for them. And I committed that I would do that and I would bring that and ask for volunteers. We probably need one or two other people. The place isn't real big, so there's, 3 people with saws would be plenty.
What are the dates on that?
That's June 28th and July 12th. And I give these to Steve so he can get them published in the minutes, because next month I'm going to be looking for those other 2 volunteers, 1 or 2 volunteers to come with me to go up and help them out. But I think I just wanted that, that's a special recognition for John Carlson, what he does for the museum. Now, going on to the other topic here. A state fair. So we have 2 things going on. We have people that go for one day. We go one day. It's a Monday usually. And we go and we cut wood there and we display stuff for the people. I know Kellen's going to help us out, I hope, at the state fair. It'd be probably the first Monday of the state fair. So that's around, the late August. And we have people there encouraging people to become members, and we give away a lot of stuff to people, handouts that are cut and things like that. And we also give away ribbons to the people who compete in the fair. And we don't judge this, so it's open to all our members. And it's kind of like the lottery, you know, you don't win unless you go to, and put something in the state fair. Last year, I offered, and I'll offer it again this year. If you feel intimidated by the process, give me what you want to enter and I'll enter it for you. But the one warning is, caution is, it's going to come up with your name and the city of Woodbury, because it's, you know, it's under my account there. But other than that, you know, so I could enter it, I can enter it for you, but I really need it, by the middle of July. So if you can't get it here in May, you'll have to contact me by the middle of July. And, next month is, going back a little bit. Next month, May, is when we need a kind of a commitment of people who will come to the fair and talk to the people on the day that we're going to be. And I hope to have that day solidified by then, but sometimes I don't. Now, when I ask you for the commitment, you can cancel out of it if you need to at the last minute. But it's really rewarding to be able to talk about all this stuff and to all these different people. And many of them are novices and things like that.
You have time, slots for that table thing, or is it all day commitments, or what is it?
I'm sorry, what?
You have time slots that you're looking for, is it all day or what?
Yes. Either one, either one. You want to work for a time slot, pick that out. If you want to work there all, you know, be there all day, you know, and have two time slots, that's fine. We're flexible.
What time do you start them?
It opens at 9.
It opens at 9, but the people who bring equipment have to be there like before 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
because they close the gates.
If you have to haul in, if you're gonna bring a saw, I was planning on not bringing one this year, somebody else take it, but you have to be off the fairgrounds, I think, by 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Oh,
And so we have to bring it in like 7 o'clock. They'll let you drive onto the fairgrounds, unload, and then you go park in the RV park.
yeah.
And then they'll come and help you remove your saw. They'll provide a van at the end of the day to load up your saw, and they'll drive you out to your car. Get off that.
Well, I can ring us off. I've got a DeWalt I can bring.
Okay. So the other thing is you get a free ticket or 2. If you're going to bring a spouse, we need to know that so that I can ask for the number of tickets. So I will be, that's why I asked for the number in May, so that I have a number in mind. There'll be some emails going around, I'm sure, so I can get the final count. But if you're gonna bring a spouse, if you want a ticket for your spouse, all I ask is that the spouse come and participate a little bit at the, you know, and talk to people in our, you know, with our group, so that at least we can say, yeah, he got a spouse, but his spouse was here, and John and Warren's wives come in they come and help us out. John's wife gets up and cuts stuff for us. Yeah, he can do it, but I can do it better. I should say, he can do it, but I can do it. Anyways, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Don. Yeah, we had a good time at the state fair. We visited with all these people, and a lot of them are people that haven't done any scroll sawing, so we bring everything in, and they're usually amazed at what this is. A lot of the stuff we display is as good as what's entered in the fair, and they're all interested. And the kids get to see it
We
too.
get some members out of it, but
Well,
right? That's how you found us, right?
Well, good. Yeah, so it's great, you know, visit with the public, and some people know a little bit about it. Most people have no idea. They're just walking through that fine arts building, and
I was amazed how much stuff they gave away. I guess it was just flying. People
Yeah.
just loved it. The little Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
The little panels, kids were coming and grabbing them.
yeah,
So, yeah, we had a lot of interest. I thought it was a fun time.
yeah, it's a good thing. It's fun. We enjoyed it.
They might, we do have enough of them in the state of Minnesota.
You got enough?
We've got a lot of
Good. It's popular.
them. Now, John's gonna cut out some Wisconsin.
Are they gonna fit? Because that's what everyone's trying to put them together.
You gotta stick together.
You better make sure they fit you.
Not if you're gonna complain, Troy.
Exactly, that's what everyone did. Everyone grabbed, they don't fit.
They don't fit.
Well, we can use lots of the bunnies and dogs and
Yeah,
that stuff could be cut out.
yeah, they're real simple cutouts to do.
People gotta do it.
Yeah.
Very simple. to do.
All right, Carl, you had something to say about his YouTube channel he created.
So Don started bugging me.
He's right here.
He started asking, it was just, you got some of those old meeting videos out there? And I said, no, we don't have room on the Zoom channel, so we delete them. And so, and that's what Katie was doing. And so I deleted them, but I started thinking about that. Now, when I went out to the Minnesota Woodworkers Guild, I noticed that they had a link to their YouTube channel and all their meetings were up on YouTube. And I went, why not do that? So,
Share my desktop here. Everybody can see.
So I went out and created a YouTube channel and I've got since December, no, excuse me, January, this year so far, I've been putting the meetings up there. That's actually been linking, the meeting minutes and been sending that out so that you can grab the stuff for the newsletter, and that's where I've been pointing people. I also realized that I had, which was one of the things that Don was interested, is the Steve Good video, right? Because that had a lot of information and it was like, be nice to go back. So I got that up there. Also, too,
There were some other videos out there, which is under playlists. So there were 3 YouTube playlists. So there was this 10-year anniversary up there. There was, which I linked to. Full playlist. And a interview with John from 7 years ago. So I found these links out there when I was searching for North Star scrollers. And I found those out there, so I figured out a way to link to those so that people are interested in go and see that. Katie was the one that said that her husband was the one that actually did that 10-year anniversary. And so I figured that'd be a nice thing to link to it. So anyways, if you search for Minnesota North Star scrollers or Minnesota North Star scrollers, you're gonna find this. What you're gonna be looking for when you do that is this logo. I needed some kind of a logo. I could, trying to do this logo here, it would cut it off because it wanted like a picture or something like that. So I created that logo there. So if you search and you find that logo, you'll know that you're in the right channel. And then you could subscribe to it. And anytime a new video post a new video up there, you'll get messages from it.
You search YouTube.
Search YouTube. And I intend to link this to the northstarscrollers.org website eventually, so that you would have a reference to this and go to that.
Yeah.
So it's just something I've been playing around with. Thanks, Don. I'm gonna post up there, yeah. And Katie's actually got
Yeah, I've got
20,
like
20, and
30
2020.
gigs worth.
Okay, so I'm gonna post those. She's got
So if
the.
you got some meeting, you can get it there.
Yeah, right, yeah.
All right, now how many people have been able to get onto the North Star Scrollers website? Put your hands up. Okay, so people have been in there. And is there anything you'd like to see that we haven't gotten in there? I guess I'd like to see a few more pictures of some of the things that come into the meetings, updated. What is that?
That's Gary Geist's list of reference links to all kinds of different things, books, magazines, blades, bits, patterns. You know.
Yeah, I've got a-
Vendors.
I've started getting a list from a variety of people who pass it around on some web page changes. And that's one of them that I was planning to put up there. So I've got some changes coming to the website when I get around to it, that I will planning to do that.
But
Okay.
not everything that's on that list is up to date, just so you know, because I've gone out to some of those websites, they don't exist anymore. So.
Good idea. So
Yeah,
before
that's
they
why
get
I'm trying to
posted.
get access to it so that we can maintain it.
Yeah.
It's on Gary's Google Drive.
Well,
It's still there.
I just got a printed list of it, so.
Carl and I linked and then we can work on it.
Yeah, we can figure out what links are not working and if there's new links and updates.
Yeah, have you,
I just have a paper copy, so,
do you have a list of what they are, the links that aren't?
no, I didn't.
We could review them.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I'd like to see a few more pictures of some of the things that we do each month, just sort of a few of them added each month. And I don't know, the gallery doesn't have much in it, but we had that other page with that I was able to add things. Can
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
add
yeah.
things to that
The
page?
file share,
The file
the
share.
file share, yeah, everybody can
Can add
add to the file share. But the thing is that, so what is the file share for? So there's a variety of things that I kind of wonder why we have that, like the file share. What is that for? The gallery really should be where those pictures are,
Yeah,
right? So there are some things that I'm gonna do. So let me get around to working on this thing. And hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll have something and I'll start passing it around to a variety of people to give feedback as I make changes
yeah,
before I put them out there and then we can go from there.
all right, yeah, because we could put things on and then take a few things off that
Yep.
have been under a
Yep.
while and just
Yep.
kind of keep it a little more up to date. Because we do make a lot of things, they're very nice.
You
and-
very do, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we, all right. Let's see. Mike Snyder, are you there?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear.
Do you have anything to add from your wood carvers meeting down in Rochester? I don't know if we covered that last meeting or not.
Well, the Rochester Woodcarvers Club had a nice show, let's see, 2 weeks ago. And there were a number of scrollers that came down that we saw down there. So thank you for making the trip. I know that at least one of our raffle items was shipped back up to in your direction for was it John or somebody that won something at the raffle?
He hasn't gotten it yet.
Okay, well, I've paid for the shipping, so it should be on the way.
It's in the mail.
It's in the mail, John.
Yeah, it's in the mail.
It's in the mail.
We had a really nice show, but the snowstorm cut our attendance down significantly. We didn't make the sort of profit that we usually do that helps run the club so that we can do things like have a free show for everybody. But it was fun, and I think all the guys the folks that came down to see it thought it was worthwhile. We welcome any feedback in case you didn't have a good time or if you did. So thanks for coming. We're going to do it again next year.
All right, thanks, Mike. Is there any other old business? Anybody have anything else they want to bring up? All right, let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll do our show and tell. Even 11 minutes. Might be 11 minutes, but we'll.
Quite a way.
All right, let's do show and tell. Show and tell. So, meeting back to order. Meeting. Meeting, let's resume meeting. 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 All right, let's do some show and tell. I'll start here. This was an item, I didn't make this, my uncle Irv made it. And he was probably 92 or something when he made it, and we were down there visiting him last year, and he gave it to me. And it kind of needed to be refinished because they'd hung it on their door, you know, and everybody touched it and it was kind of a little bit wore, so all I did was just refinish it. Yeah, Uncle Irv, 96 now, he's still going.
Mike?
What? I'll take a picture of my. Okay. Next.
I brought a couple things this month. The Scroll Saw and Crafts catalog had these flower stakes in them with the little snails. I cut the stake part off and just made snails. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them, but I think they're kind of cute, so. I don't know. I don't know anybody that gardens. I don't. I found this pattern when I was in Arizona and made several of these little bunnies for Easter and had to send them up early because Easter came before April, you know, this year. So I had to send them to the people that I made them for, but I think they're kind of cute little puzzles.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then in the fall of last year, we had our community event. And there was a woman that came in and was talking to Mike and I about this trivet that she had and wondered if we made them. And she was trying to describe them and she talked about circles and scrolls and they came apart and they went together. Couldn't figure out what she was talking about. So she came back about an hour later and she brought it in with her and I took a picture of it. And so I made some of them. So this is the trivet. It comes apart, so you can use it in two pieces, or you can use it as one piece. And I just really love the design of it. Very simple, very rustic.
Yeah.
People that I've shown them to have wanted them. So when we were in Arizona, again, I made 19 of them and they're all taken, they're all spoken for. But I really like the wood. This is a willow arcasia wood,
Yeah.
and then I've got another one that's an Italian rosewood, the same kind of thing. But I love the idea of being able to, you know, put them on bigger or just leave them simple.
How'd you round the edges instead by?
A router,
hand kind
a
of?
router.
We took a router.
Yeah, they have a table router and
and just
so,
went around.
yeah, somebody did that for me
Oh,
because.
you like your fingers.
Yeah. So I had an experienced person do that for me. And I just put butcher block oil
Yeah.
on them, you know, to give them color. And then when I give them as gifts this Christmas, I'll just tell people to, you know, to refresh them.
Yeah.
But I think they're good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, where'd you find that at?
I took a picture and then just.
Do it up.
By hand.
Yeah.
Couple things here, on Thursday, we were over at the Presbyterian homes here and gave out a whole bunch of Minnesotas. And I made these out of my new kitchen floor leftovers. And they're great. It's the luxury vinyl planking that you can buy.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's my kitchen and my porch. I put this both in last month, so.
You cut pretty well.
Yeah, these cut really nice. They do take they're a little bit hard on blades. So you want to use a thicker blade, like a number 7 or something like that. I use a precision ground. And even when the blade was hardly able to cut, it still cut this pretty well. No dust, but a lot of granular,
Oh,
yeah.
pieces that come up. And So you don't always have to use wood if you got other stuff that makes them. You can make, I mean, these would be great for coasters, you know, because they're waterproof.
It's flooring.
Yeah. And then Carl got me inspired to make a phone holder. So I found that this is a Steve Good pattern with a scroller here. And you can put your phone on it and charge it like that, you know. Just make a stand for it.
Yeah.
So that's where my phone is now, on the counter. So you can make anything you want. The other thing is, I know we've got new members here. I've shown this before. This little jigsaw I make with a picture. And this again, Steve Good has patterns for making a jigsaw puzzle. And you just sandwich that, you know, you glue the picture onto a 1/4" plywood. And then you attach the photo over that. You attach the pattern over the photo and then you cut it all out. And then you take that off and you got you got whatever. This is about, I'm guessing must be around a. This is probably 70-piece puzzle here. You get close enough, you can see the parts.
Why did you attach the pattern over the photo?
Same thing.
So, I'd have to go through the instructions.
They use an 8-inch, you put 8-inch plywood over the top, put the pattern on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So then you end up,
So you have a waist, yeah,
A sacrificial piece.
you have a sacrificial piece actually.
Okay.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And then I just built this frame so you can set it in there, put it in as a puzzle.
Sure.
Puzzle box. Okay. So, anybody needs more information about this, Steve Good has a bunch of different sizes of 5x7, he has 4x6. And he's got a bigger one too, like 8.5 by 10 or something. Like
Was that picture an actual, like a postcard or something?
This is a picture that our friend Pete Rose took.
Oh, okay.
And I've got this actually above my mantle. It's on a piece of canvas and it's this size.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's a picture that he took. That's all I have.
Thank you, Warren.
Leave it up, all you.
Well, I brought a couple of things. Last month I got the tulip patterns. And I knew that the friend I share a house with, her sister's favorite flower is tulips. And so I started out and I made 3 of them and painted them various shades of purple lavender because that's her favorite color. And then I decided I wanted to do a few more in some other colors. So I think I've done about 6 or 9. And the pattern, I picked it up last month here.
Yeah.
So I had fun doing that. And then this is a Steve Good pattern. I finished the basic sawing on this about 6:30 last night. So it's not finished. There's some rough spots that need some sanding, but this has a base that will come out from the bottom that will hold, I believe it's 12 spools of thread. And there's a friend that I worked with last summer that I showed her the pattern when it came through and she said, make me one. So this will be sold. So I'll have made my first money scroll sawing. So. And this, I'm just gonna finish this. I'll put a little sanding sealer on it and then just a clear finish, probably a poly or something like that to protect it and get the grain to pop out. And that's poplar. I just use the plywood for the tulips.
Thank you. Very good.
Yeah.
This is a Judy Roberts pattern. And I reduced the pattern 20%. Otherwise, you'd have this big, you should. You have no place to put it otherwise.
What's the wood?
It's pine. This is all pine, blue pine and red cedar, aspen, and then walnut. And the hands and face, I don't know what that is. I picked up a piece of rockwood. And it was just a little piece that I thought, I bought it because I figured I could use it someday. And now I used it on there.
Hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, John. Yeah.
Oh, I made a couple of things here. Add another bird to my collection. Been kind of doing different birds on these slabs here, using them up this way.
Camera.
Hold him up again.
Oh,
There we go, and show him to Mike Snyder.
You gotta move up closer.
Go right up close.
there
There you go.
it's all blurry.
Yeah, no, focus.
Focuses a little bit.
All right.
Figure it out.
And since it was Easter, these were not done on a scroll saw. The basket is a Steve Good pattern. And I don't know, it was kind of fun because I took a bunch of these, I made these just for this, but I made a bunch more for the grandkids. And when they came over, they all had to, they were just out of pine and they all had to decorate their eggs with pine, with markers and that. So we got a basket full of.
You make the eggs on the lathe or what?
Yeah.
How long does that take to do
An egg,
egg, yeah.
2 minutes maybe.
Oh. Okay.
And they don't all turn out looking like
Oh.
eggs.
I did a wolf. It came from an older scroll saw magazine and originally, I think, and I think I got this pattern from Swede, amongst stuff that he gave out. So,
Yeah, it's a nice one.
thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
This is a learner's, I'm a beginner compared to these, I'm not an artist. So I started off making this, and I was cutting and I was paying a lot of attention and practicing making circles. And so if you look at it, this was stack cut. You can see my mistake is that I pushed a little bit too hard against the blade. And so there's an arc on the side of it from pushing too hard and paying too much attention to this and having stuff like that. I kind of liked it, so I think I'm gonna keep it. I was gonna throw it in the bin. The reason I was practicing making circles is because I want to make some wheels for a truck.
Yeah.
For my granddaughter. So that's what I started off with.
Tell everybody that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, I'm gonna do that, and that's artistic.
Yeah.
I was trying to make a mushroom. I made it big so that it's easy to get the top on.
That's actually be hard to do if you want to do that.
Yeah.
So you came out ahead. Scribbles in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don.
Supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
Here's my project, the fish made out of poplar. And
That's nice.
the background wood is just, I got it at a junk store somewhere in Iowa. I'm into wood with character, so and I had that around the shop and it's hanging, this thing is hanging in my bathroom now, so. But what I'm doing, I got this for Christmas from my husband. I'm working through this book. So that project was so fun because it's one color, but I'm eventually going to get some, right now I'm working on 2 colors, but this book is really good. Kathy Wise made it, so it's for beginners, which I am, and I'm just working through it. And this was a fun project. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. When you get it up. Oh, wait, tell John here.
This is, are you next? Oh, do you want to go first? I'll go.
I'll go stand up here, you go.
It's Judy Gill Roberts pattern. The pattern comes in 2 different sizes. This is the small version. Started it, I think, in 21, and around December, I thought I gotta finish this up. It just was driving me crazy trying to sand it. But it's basswood, aspen, walnut, and cedar, I think I used for the hair. And cheated a little bit. I used a wood burner to burn in the eyes there a little bit rather than cutting a second piece. Matter of fact, on the pattern, she has more just cutting in the grooves and stuff with like a gouge. I decided to cut it all apart, which makes your life a lot worse because you handle all these pieces you handle probably 20 times each, 25 times each to get it right. So it takes a long time. But I like the way it came out, and just doing the nipples here, it was kind of tricky. I just took a dowel and then shaped it a little bit. I didn't know how else to do that. But anyway, yeah, I like the way it came out. And somebody said, "What are you gonna do with it?" Well, the kids can decide that later after it hangs.
Isn't that we're grabbing a lot?
Hold it up to the camera.
Rick Snyder.
And posterity.
Well, somebody was asking me about this. Just show you what I had this laying around. I want to display it. Why are these things here? But I had made this as you hang photos in there. And we had an anniversary, so I had a bunch of photos. So yeah, works good as a display thing too. So. And when you got tons of that wood around that fence post out, I'll put it back up.
So Carl's gonna bring up a picture that I brought in. John brought in all these words. He said he's got like 3,000 of them. Several months ago now, and said, take what you want home with you. So I did. And I have 4 grandsons, 8 to 3 years old, and they always want to do a project when they come to grandma's house. Grandma might have sort of started that, but that's okay. So they wanted to paint. So I dug out those words and they painted. And then they left. And here I had all these painted words. I was like, what the heck? What am I going to do with them? So I made a wall hanging out of it. I added the butterflies because it needed something more than the words. And then I decided it could hang in the room where they sleep when they come to grandma's house. And the pieces on the side then are pieces of their artwork, but they go to a school in Iowa that posts their artwork to a website, and we can buy it on all kinds of things, mugs and refrigerator magnets and frameable pieces. So I went and bought one of each of their pieces and framed them and hung beside them. So so that's all in the room where they sleep when they come. But yeah, they were. Yeah, I didn't tell them until they came the first time. And so they were like, oh, that's mine and that's mine. And I painted that word and I painted that word. It was really, really fun. Yeah. Yeah. But I always try to have a project for them to do when they come, and I always involve wood in it. For Christmas last year, I helped them make tree ornaments for their grandparents, and they have great grandparents living too. And we took their picture and their school picture, and we decoupaged it on some of those small live edge pieces that I took. And then I finished them for them with some varnish and stuff, and they made tree ornaments out of them, so they could give their grandparents gifts. So I always do something with them that involves wood. So
Nice. That pretty much everybody?
one more.
One more? John? No. Oh, no.
In the Scroll Saw magazine, they
Target pattern that I thought I might be able to do. I found out a little bit different, but that's the first Target I've ever done. You came out okay.
Bring it over here, John. Cool. Bunnies? Oh, those
Yeah,
are
we went over those.
those were patties. Yeah, was Patty a good picture?
Were you asleep?
I'll take,
Couldn't sleep, yes.
I'll take credit for the buttons.
You can have it.
Okay, well, very good selection of stuff here today. Good production last month. All right, if there's anything else,
Maybe the program?
program.
Program.
I don't have it on here. I don't have it on here.
I'm going like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Okay. Our
Gonna be a-
program will be Troy Buchan today with re-sawn.
I'm going, you're not leaving much time for try.
Yeah. I'm like, gee, we got a lot
Boy,
of.
you know, put all this together and
Whoa.
Oh.
all right, so I know there's quite a bit of interest in this. We want to learn about re-sign. Okay, and I'll share my screen here. The Zoom meeting.
Good.
All right. Using, okay, let me actually. There we go, that was better. All right, so I've been doing resawn for a while. I originally had a smaller bandsaw that could only do about 5 inches of resawn. We'll talk about the different bandsaws here. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I bought a much larger bandsaw that can saw up to 13 inches. So but I'm gonna start at the beginning here with re-sawing lumber. We're going to be talking about using a bandsaw. You can do it with a table saw. I wouldn't recommend it. I haven't tried it, but supposedly you can. But even we'll start at the beginning here. So. So we talk about, what is re-sawn? Why would you want to re-saw? The tools you'll need for re-sawing. The most important part of re-sawing, which is calibrating your bandsaw, which we'll talk about we'll go into a little bit here about why you want to do that and why you need to do that. Selecting and preparing boards for re-sawing. Then we'll actually talk about re-sawing lumber. Surfacing re-sawn boards, which is really important because when you run a board through a bandsaw and it comes out, it's pretty rough. And you need to surface it before you can use it. And then we'll go a little bit over on using and storing re-sawn lumber. So let's start out what is re-sawn. So re-sawn, as you can see in the picture here, is simply taking a piece of lumber, sawing it vertically to create 2 or more thinner boards. Most commonly done on a bandsaw, but also can be done on a table saw. So you see here's an example of someone re-sawing lumber. So why would you want to re-saw? I get this question a lot. Why are you bothering re-sawing lumber? So the most common thickness of lumber is 4-4, which is between 3/4 and 1 inch thick. Usually about 7/8 is the most common, but sometimes it'll be a little thicker. So many scroll saw projects, especially stuff I do, require stuff thinner than 3/4. A lot of times I'm using 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, usually between 1/4 and 1/8 inch is what I'm using. Well, I can take a piece of 3/4 lumber, run it through my planer, my drum sander down to a 1/4 inch. Pretty wasteful, gets expensive really quick. Sometimes you can buy thinner lumber, it's very hard to find. And when you do find it, it's really expensive because somebody just went and did all the work we're going to talk about. They had to resaw that board, surface it, get it, package it, get it to you, it gets really, really expensive. Not that this, buying the tools for this can be expensive, but we'll talk about that. So, and that's if you can find, say, okay, I need a bunch of 1/4-inch black walnut that's at least 6 inches wide. Maybe all they got is 4-inch wide. Now I'm trying to glue up stuff, and that's not much fun with the thinner lumber. So, and a single 4x4 board can be transformed into 2 1/4-inch and 1/8 inch thick boards via resaw. So I can take a 4x4 board and get 3 boards out of it, and that's 1/4-inch finished down to 220, ready to cut, and an 1/8 inch board down to 220, ready to cut. Now, when you first start out, I couldn't do quite that well, but now I can, just with practice. And another advantage of resawn is book matching. Book matching is where you take a board, you split it in half, and they're mirror images of each other. We don't see that as much in scroll saw, but you do see that in cabinets, where you'll have a cabinet where it's two doors and they fit perfectly together, and they're mirror images. That's called book matching. So that's one of the things that resawing can be used for as well. I'm not worried about book matching. I'm cutting so I've got the pieces I need. So these are just some examples of pieces I've made. These have all been made using resawn lumber. Most of these are made with 1/4-inch. There's some 1/8 inch in there. But this is why I resaw, because if I had to go try to find all the lumber for all this stuff in the correct distances, I'd probably go crazy and probably go broke. Because there's a lot of resawn lumber in all these pieces. All right, so the fun part. Let's talk about the tools you need for resawing. So first thing you need is a bandsaw. You need to be equipped with a resaw blade and a fence. Some saws don't have fences. Some bandsaws just don't come with a fence. I'd say any newer saw will almost always come with a fence. It's very rare to find without, but older saws do not. The good news is there's aftermarket saw fences are available for almost every saw. Craig makes a really nice one. There's other brands that make aftermarket saws, and they're designed to fit a lot of these older bandsaws that don't have fences. And you do need one for, I don't know how you would resaw without a fence. I wouldn't try it. So a joiner is nice to have, not required. It is really helpful. There are other ways to join a board without a dedicated joiner, but I'm going to be referring to using a 6-inch steel knife joiner. That's what I have, and that's what I use, and it works really well. And then you'll need a power planer and or a drum sander. Now, I prefer to use a drum sander over a planer, but either one will work. Then you can also use a hand planer or belt sander. I'll be talking about using a drum sander because that's what I have. The reason I like a drum sander over a planer, much more accurate. I can literally take 1/100th of an inch off with a belt sander, and there's no snipe, there's no tear out. You can actually run, if you have like a checkerboard, where you have grains going your weight, you can run it through a drum sander. It'll be just fine. You do that through a planer, it'll destroy it.
What is snipe?
Snipe is when you run a board through a planer and it's flat and it gets to the end and it kind of tips up a little bit and takes that gouge out of the end. So and planers are fine. I've used planers plenty. It's just, especially I think the helical head planers are probably better than the flat blade, but the thing is I don't like sanding. So with the drum sander, I run it down to 220. When it comes out of the drum sander, it's 220 and it's ready. I don't do any sanding. A little bit of touch up when I'm done, that's it. So I'm gonna go over each tool here and what you need to resaw. So bandsaw, let's talk about a bandsaw. So the first thing is a bandsaw size. So the size of a bandsaw usually refers to the wheels that turn the blade. For example, a 14-inch bandsaw has 14-inch wheels. And then the width between the blade and the back post is typically 1 inch less. So on a 14-inch bandsaw, you typically have 13 inches from the blade to the back post. Now, this is kind of the standard, but it varies. So not all bandsaw manufacturers use the same criteria. If you're looking at Jet, Powermatic, the higher end models, they're all going to use the wheel size is the size of the bandsaw. Some of the older models, some of the other models might have a different design where they have a little bit deeper throat. So it might say it's a 10-inch, it's a 10-inch bandsaw, but it's actually using 8-inch wheels. because they have it where it's designed where it's got a deeper throw. But those aren't gonna work for re-sawn anyway. And some bandsaws, they will say that, oh, it's a 10-inch bandsaw, which means you can cut into the middle of a 10-inch board. There's only 5 inches between the back. So be aware that that size isn't always accurate unless you're talking about the higher end machines. Then resaw height. So this number indicates how tall of a board you can resaw. Typically saws have maximum resaw capacity between 4 inches, which is going to be the lower end, and 13 inches, which is the highest. There might be some really big industrial machines that can do bigger than 13 inches, but 13 inches is the biggest you're going to find on a machine that we would typically use. And then horsepower, this is the big one. This is the problem I ran into, is that you need a really powerful bandsaw to resaw. As you think about how much material you're removing with that blade, it's normally when you take a bandsaw and you're got 3/4 inch board, you're moving 3/4 inches of material maybe. That's not much. You're removing up to 13 inches of material. So that saw is working hard, and you need to have something that's powerful enough. So 1.5 horsepower is kind of the minimum, I would say, for re-sawn. That's what my particular one has. You get over 1.5 horsepower, or 2 horsepower in all, it's probably going to be 220 volt. And then a larger industrial bandsaw, which will have a really big, like a 3 or 4 horsepower motor, that's going to be like a 3-phase motor. Now, 3-phase electricity, if you don't know what that is, that's fine. It's not what you have in your home. It's something you'll see in an industrial, like in a wood shop or in a factory. And what it is that it allows you to run a lot larger motor than we can run our regular motors. But typically, if you have 1.5 horsepower or more, you're going to be good. You might be able to get away with a 1 horsepower motor. It just depends. But I'd say 1.5 is probably the good. So I show you see there's some examples of, you see these bandsaws a lot. These are just a couple examples. There's all kinds of different ones. These are all 10-inch bandsaws. You see Jet even has a 10-inch one. These are not designed for resaw. They have about a 5-inch capacity if you were to try to resaw with them, but it's a very good likelihood that you're going to burn out the motor. They just can't do it. I had something a little bit bigger than this, and it really struggled. But these are great bandsaws for what they're designed for. They're not designed for resaw. It just isn't gonna work good. And like I said, these are really popular. These are all over Facebook marketplace right now. There's about 6 or 7 of these for a couple $100. And if you need a bandsaw to do light duty work, these are great, but not so much for resawing. So we'll talk, there's 2 main types of bandsaws that can do resawing that are around right now. There are C-frame bandsaws. That's what these are. You see they've got these are big cast iron. They're heavy. They have a C shape. These are both, I think these are both 12 or 14 inch saws. But you see that delta there, that's the saw I originally had. I should say, I had an earlier model of that one. This is the newer model, but it's more or less the same. You can go about 5-inch height. For resaw, I had a 3/4 horsepower motor, woefully underpowered for resaw. Would cut, no problem, regular stuff. You threw a resaw blade and tried to resaw. I stuck a Craig fence on there. It would throw the motor had an overload. It would pop the overload every time I tried to. No matter how slow I tried to push it through, it would pop the overload. It couldn't do it. It wasn't meant for it. The Jet one, you see that's a riser, so that can cut up to 12 inches. It's got a bigger motor. That one actually is pretty good, probably pretty good for resaw. I think that one has a 1 horsepower motor or 1.25 horsepower motor, something like that. What did I write up there? 1.25. Okay, it's covered up here for me. Yeah, so that's a 1.25 horsepower. I haven't used that particular one, so I can't vouch for it, but I think that would probably, it's got the deeper throat. It's meant for resaw, and I think it'll probably be just fine. And then you can get a riser kit for a lot of these old C-frame saws, but if it has that smaller motor, it's not going to do you any good. You're going to end up with a riser kit, and you can cut 12-inch, and you're going to pop the overload in that motor every time. But there are C-frame saws that have bigger motors. There are ones that have 1.5, 2 horsepower motors. They're still really popular. There's nothing wrong with a C-frame saw. Yeah.
You use resaw blades. You referred to them
time it's resawn blades?
Yeah, we'll be talking about blades here coming up.
All right.
Yep. So we're gonna go bandsaws, blades, we're gonna cover everything here. So this is what's called a steel frame bandsaw, also known as a European style bandsaw. Now these are newer. They've only been, I don't know how long they've been around, but I know I've been seeing them going back about 20 years or so. The difference with that C-frame saw, it's a cast iron C, which is very rigid and very heavy, which is great for a bandsaw. These, when they first came out, there were some problems where they weren't rigid enough. So as you tighten the blade, they would actually bend in. That seems to be largely been eliminated now. So these are made from welded steel tube. And that's really not a problem anymore. They kind of got to, you know, they release something, it doesn't work quite the way you would like it to. It gets a bad rap, they fix it, and everyone still thinks they're bad. So you'll see people always say, "Oh, you can't use a steel frame saw or European saw. They're terrible. They bend. They don't hold." It's not true. I have this is actually the saw I have. So this is a jet 14-inch, and that's exactly what mine looks like. You'll see here later. And this can resaw up to 13 inches. And it will resaw up to 13 inches. The largest board I've ever resawn was 12 inches. And I couldn't stop the motor. It just went. It worked hard, but it went through it. These do tend to be a little bit lighter than a C-frame saw, and the dust collection is a little bit better than a C-frame saw, is my experience. And then, like I said, you will see a lot of saws that look like this that are less than 14 inches. They're just not going to work for a resaw. So this is kind of, I would say this is Jet's smallest European style or a steel frame bandsaw that can do resawing. There are smaller ones that are made by Jet that are smaller than this. They aren't going to do resawing, and there are much bigger ones than this. This is like the baby bandsaw. This runs off 120 volts. It just plugs in a regular outlet, but it's got tons of power. It's got a huge motor on it, and it just runs. So it's a great saw. All right, so blades. We're gonna talk about blades. So for the best results for resawn, you want to use a blade that's designed for resawn. Makes sense. If you go where I get my blades is from timberwolfblades.com. That is a Suffolk Machinery Company. I've got links to everything in this, and I've got a page of links for everyone if you're looking for whatever it is. But when you go on their site, if you don't know, you say they're sold by length. Like mine is like a 93 7/8 inch or whatever it is. If you put in your saw model, it doesn't matter how old it is, how new it is, they will determine what size your saw uses. So like I can go in there, throw in the Jet 14 SSVX, whatever mine is, and it'll pop up and say, "Oh, this is the blade you need." And when you order, they actually, even if you put the size in, they still want you to put your model in because they want to double check to make sure you know, and they'll say, "Are you sure you want that one? Because your saw uses this size blade." So really good for that. And then resawn blades tend to be between 1/2 inch and 1 inch wide. Now my saw, the largest blade you can put in there is 3/4 of an inch, which is pretty good. You get into the bigger saws, they'll take a 1 inch blade. And then what I do, you go on their site and you look, and it says this blade is for resawing, and there's different ones. And it'll say, like on timberwolfblades.com, it'll actually say, for this saw is meant for resawing greenwood. This saw is meant for doing thin veneers. It's got more teeth. It's a little finer. This is just a great general resawn blade for up to 12 inches. And choose the one. The one I use is just kind of the middle of the road. It's designed for up to 12 inches. It's got 2 to 3. It's called a 2/3 variable BPC. I forget what that means. It's how the teeth are set. But essentially, it's designed for resawn. The nice thing is they're not that expensive. So the blade for my saw is about $38. I just recently put a second blade in. So I bought this 4 years ago. I've been using the same blade. And the only reason I replaced it is it broke. Although once I put the new one in, I realized it was a little dull because the new one was cut a lot faster. But you can get through several hundred feet of resawing with one blade. They do last a long time. And like I said, I use the Timberwolf saw blades. I've got a couple different ones for my bandsaw. I really like them. They work really well. There are plenty other manufacturers that sell blades too. But just from people I've talked to from wood shops, it seems like everyone's using Timberwolf. They're just for the, actually every wood shop I've talked to uses Timberwolf. Just because they're inexpensive, they last a long time, and they work really good. And this isn't a carbide blade. This is just a standard steel blade. You can get carbide blades. I don't know if they're really worth it, because they tend to have a larger kerf. But this is not a carbide blade, it's just a plain old steel blade. Now, I think they will put some coatings and stuff on it that makes it a little better, but all right, so joiners. So there are a lot of different joiners out there. I'm sure probably a lot of us own joiners. So you have the lunchbox joiner, which is a small one there. That was the original joiner I had for a long time. I sold that several years ago. And then I bought the joiner you see on the right there. Now, they don't make this particular model anymore, but they make a very similar model. And they're about $1,200 new, which is a lot of money for a joiner. However, I bought mine on Facebook for $175. And there's always joiners on Facebook. Sometimes they're really expensive. I've seen this joiner, the same one I have, for between $175 that I paid, and people asking $800. So, but I also see plenty out there around $200. So if you're thinking about you'd like to get a bigger joiner, check Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, you can get a good deal. Just be prepared. Like the one I bought was really rusty. I just had to clean it up. I cleaned it up, sanded it up, put new blades in it. It runs like a champ. I use it all the time. So joiner is a nice tool. It's not just great for re-sawing. It's just nice to have a joiner. If you're using rough lumber, you can clean up rough lumber on a table saw. It's not that hard, but a joiner really does a nice job. It gives you a nice. It takes that wavy board. It gets you nice and flat. And then there are two types of cutting heads: helical head joiners, which are a little bit different. Instead of having one long, like 3 long blades, they have all these tiny little square blades that are really sharp, and it gives you a much smoother cut, but way more expensive. They are those helical head cutters are extremely good. There's also spiral cutters, but those are the most common. I haven't used a helical head joiner. They make helical head planers too, but from what I've read, they do work. But as far as resawing, whether you have a plain steel knife or helical head, doesn't really matter. We're just gonna use it to clean up our boards. And like I said, these are pretty commonly available in the used market. And the last important tool is a drum sander. So this is the Laguna Super Max. This is the one I own. This is actually, mine's a little bit different. It's a little bit newer model. So single drum sanders come in 3 common sizes. They come 1020, 1632, and 1938. And there are also some other sizes. They come in bigger, even bigger than that. So essentially what a drum sander is, it just uses sandpaper rolled along a drum. It spins above the wood. There's a conveyor belt under the sander. You set the dial for how thick you want it to be. You place your board on it, and it just pulls it through and it sands it. And it runs that. The drum sander produces a ton of dust. You got to make sure you got a really good dust collector on it, or you will have dust everywhere. And it sands that board. And the reason they're called 1020, 1632 is you see how it's open on the end. You can actually, it's 16 inches wide is how wide the drum is. So let's say I have a 28-inch board. I can run it through one side, flip that board around, and run it through the other. And there's a little lever you flip when you're doing that so that it offsets it just enough so you get a perfectly flat surface. So on my drum, I can actually do up to a 32-inch board on my drum set, which I've never needed to do that, but 16 inches is pretty good. So unlike a planer, you don't get any snipe, you don't get tear out, especially certain woods when you're trying to plane them, really want to tear out badly. Monkey pot is one. I don't know if anyone's ever worked with it. I would never work with it again, but I hated it. But it's known for tearing out terribly with a planer. But a drum sander, no problem at all. And the thing is now, with a drum sander, the disadvantage over a planer is you can, at the very most, you can take off a 64th of an inch at a time. And you're gonna have to run it, and you don't just run it through once like you do in a planer. You run it through, and then you run it through a couple times to get it Because it'll run through and it'll take it off and it won't quite take it all off. You run through again, then it'll take it off. It's a longer process, but you get a much finer result. And I find I'll waste a lot less with it. And yeah, and you can actually take up to a 100th of an inch off at a time. So you can set it that finely. It's that fine of a tune. Mine has a little digital gauge on it, so I can actually see when I'm taking off. And it's really great. Like I said, you can get the lowest 36 grit for really taking off a lot of material, clean up a dirty, rough board. And then what you do is just keep rewrapping the drum. It takes about a minute to rewrap it. And you work your way all the way up to 320. I stop at 220, but you can get them to 320. And then, yeah, and then the rolls actually last pretty long. I think I bought these huge rolls that you can get pre-cut. They're kind of expensive. But I found you buy a huge roll, I think it was 120 feet for $75. I think I got 15 wraps. So I'm probably not going to buy sandpaper for a very long time. But okay, so we talked about the tools. Here's the problem. I don't have the room, budget, or I cannot justify the expense of a bandsaw, joiner, and drum sander. I get it. These tools are expensive. It took me years of saving and begging my wife to let me buy these. You know. But it also too, I mean, this is a hobby. I mean, it's a hobby for most of us. I don't think very few of us I think are selling our stuff and trying to make money off this. It's something we enjoy. But I get it. You may not have the room for them. You can't justify owning. You don't use it enough. Like, so these machines all start between $1,200 and $1,400 new and go up substantially from there. If you're only doing a few projects or small projects, I mean, I really can't justify it other than that I enjoy doing it. You know, I don't sell my stuff. It's just for my own personal enjoyment. It's my hobby. And then same things with blades, sanding belts, repair parts. They can add up quickly. And I said, while these tools are required, do make re-sawn easier. Not all of them are required. There's always another way to do it. It's just not going to be as easy or as efficient. And I said, there's a way to get good results using tools you already have. You can join resaw boards on a table saw. There's plenty of articles out there on how to do that, how to build a jig, a homemade jig on your table saw to turn it into a joiner. All kind, using a belt sander, or if you already have a planer. And then say, if you are interested in buying these tools, you have the time and patience, you might be able to find the items used for a reasonable price. I look all the time just because I'm boring that way and I like to look at Facebook. And drum sanders are hard to find. I tried for a year and they would come up there and I would jump on them immediately and someone would beat me to it every time. I could never get one, or people wanted $2,000 for one that I could buy for $1,500. So they tend to be expensive and hard to find. If you can find one, great, go for it. There's one on there right now for $600. That's a little questionable, but but bandsaws and joiners are more common on things. However, the larger bandsaws are hard to find. They do pop up every now and then, but they're usually almost as expensive as buying them. Joiners, those are easy. They're a dime a dozen. You can easily get a joiner. Then, if you're lucky, if you have a nice friend that has the tools, will let you use them. That's an option. But another option is the Minnesota Tool Library. And I wanted to bring this up because Steve actually joined the tool library and has been going there and using their sander. And that's actually a really great way to try all these tools. What is it, 100? So I have the membership start at $65 a year, but it's like 120 for a regular membership. I think was it 120? Yeah. And you can go into their building. Some of us have been there that have taught the class there, but they have a building in Northeast Minneapolis. They're inside a larger building. They have a suite in there, and they have a bandsaw. And I didn't look at it that close. I was there before, but I'm pretty sure it was a pretty big. It's a jet, and I'm pretty sure it was a pretty big industrial one. So more than big enough for resawn, I think. Don't quote me on that. I know they have a sander, and I know they have a planer and joiner and table saw. So it was one of those things where you'd like to try it. Think I might want to do this. Yeah, maybe check out the tool library rather than going and invest in a bunch of tools and end up this isn't for me. I can't do it, and then you're stuck with a bunch of tools. So that is an option to look at. So we talk about calibrating your bandsaw. This is the most important thing you can do. when I first tried to re-sign, it was insane. I couldn't cut. Every time I tried to cut, the blade would wander. I tried to cut a 1/4 inch piece and I take a 3/4 inch piece of lumber and I end up throwing it away because it was just awful. I mean, it was wavy. It would, the blade would completely come out of the board. I mean, if you enjoy aggravation, go for it, but I certainly don't. So taking the time to properly calibrate your saw, it's not going to just make your saw work better for re-sawing, it'll make it work better for everything. Now, as I say in here, I can do an entire presentation calibrating your bandsaw. Not going to do that because there's a really, really good video out there by Alex Snodgrass. So Alex Snodgrass is one of the people that runs Carter Bandsaw guides. So they're a company that makes guides for bandsaws. So he's a pretty interesting guy. And this presentation is something that was filmed at like a tool show and maybe like 10, 15 years ago. But bandsaws haven't changed. The bandsaw, if you took a bandsaw from 1950 and a bandsaw from today, it has all the same adjustments. And he goes through how to properly calibrate your bandsaw. Because the problem is, you take out the owner's manual, it doesn't tell you anything. It says, well, you move it here to adjust the wheel back and forth, and you can do this to tighten up the guides. And he actually goes step by step how to do it. And the way what he recommends is different than what any of the other people would recommend to do. And I've watched a lot of videos trying to figure out a better way. And how he has you, he literally says, take the table off, open up the door, unplug it, and spin that wheel by hand and watch. Turn that wheel and he tells you, okay, get that blade right where, right in this particular position, okay? He said, then for the guides, so there's, little either bearings or you have blocks. Mine has bearings. He's like, well, he said, a lot of people tell you put a dollar bill in there and, use that for a space. He's like, throw that out. He says, tighten it in till it's just, you can see it where you can turn that blade and it doesn't turn the wheel and it doesn't hit the block. And, a couple other things. And it's about a half-hour presentation. I think I watched it 4 times just because I kept watching it. And once I did that, it went from I couldn't cut anything. I was so mad that I bought this brand new bandsaw and I just could not make it work. And I was getting so angry. And I did everything he did, and I tried to do a board, and man, it was straight, perfect, getting perfect cuts every time. The only key is every time you go to resaw, double check because stuff moves. And even with mine, when the guides, it's a crank that raises the guides up and down. When you raise that guide up a little bit, it moves. You got to readjust it. And drum sanders and joiners need a little bit of calibration, but nothing like a bandsaw. It's crazy how much you kind of have to do. But once you get it kind of dialed in, you don't have to do much. You get it dialed in. You get that blade on the wheels correct. You get the guide set, the lower guide set correct. You maybe have to adjust that upper guide a little bit every time you resaw. But it made a world of difference. I could not believe how much difference that made. So I'll have the link to it.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you use to make that absolute 90-degree angle when you've just lifted it up and changed it a little bit?
Well, the blade always stays 90. So the blade's fine. What happens is the guides, I think it's just my saw. Jet's gotten a little sloppy in their quality control over the last few years. So when you turn that crank arm up and you raise that arm up, it's moving back a little bit. It stays straight, but it moves back and forth a little bit. So I just have to take that back side guide and move it forward a little bit. But the blade's always staying 90. The blade's not a problem. It's the guide. It's the guide. The table's staying flat. Yep, the table's perfectly flat. I've gone through, made sure to check that. The guides on mine, it has 2 roller bearings on the side and 1 behind, and they're just attached to an arm that moves up and down. When I move that arm up and down, there's a little bit of slop in there, because you move it up and you tighten it down, and it always seems to move a little bit. So you just have to readjust the guide. It's just a little.
And the guides is what stops that blade from moving back too far and from side to side. So you're gonna get a straighter cut. If it's wobbly, it's gonna go way.
Right. And the problem is that if you have the guides too close and they're hitting the blade, that's too close. So, and it's safe in the back. You want to just be off, because those guides, what they're supposed to do, they're not meant to hold the blade in place. They're meant to, if the blade starts to move a little, to push it back. If you if you're putting a little too much pressure on it and it's starting to waver a little bit, those guys should just push it back. So when the blade's moving, those rollers should not be moving. When you're pushing it through, your goal is to not hit those guys. Don't put so much pressure, and that's kind of goes over in that video, so I don't want to go too much further into that, running out of time here, but watch the video. It's really interesting. He's an interesting guy. He actually runs a big Facebook group about making bandsaw boxes, and the stuff they do is really cool. So, all right. So selecting and preparing wood for re-sawn. So you can re-saw any species of wood. You can do green wood. It's a little bit different process, and I'm not gonna really go into that. But you need the piece of stock to be flat on at least one side and one edge. That's critical. If you don't have a flat edge and a flat side to put against the fence and the table, you're not going to get good results. That's where the joiner comes in. So if I have less than a 6-inch wide piece of board, I run the face through the joiner, I run the edge through the joiner, and then I've got one straight edge, one straight face. It's sitting there. I'm getting a perfect cut. Wider than 6 inches, I run it through my drum sander until it's flat, and then I do the edge on the joiner. And I actually do all 4 sides because I'm going to have to anyway eventually. So I have 4 perfectly flat sides that I'm going to push through that bandsaw. Because most of the stuff I use is between 7/8 and 2 inch thick. It's fairly flat, but it's just skip plane, so it's rough. The edges are rough. Clean it up, run it through my drum sander if I need to. And then if it's cupped or warped, and you try to run it, you're gonna get a cupped or warped finished product. So, and then what I do, if it's less than 13 inches, I run it through my saw. If I'm doing a glue up, I glue it up first, surface it, run it through my my bandsaw. I don't really do anything wider than 13 inches usually, so I don't have to, cut 2 and then re-glue it, but you can. Like I said, 13 inches is the biggest I can do. All right. So we can talk about setting up the fence on the bandsaw for re-sawn. So before you start cutting, you need to determine how wide of a piece do I want to cut. So I want my finished piece to be 1/4 inch, and I have a flat surface on the one side. But when I cut it, it's going to be rough, and I'm going to have to surface it. It's not going to be. It's never perfectly even when you re-saw. There's always a little bit of waver. There's not much. So I typically set mine at just under 3/8, and I set the distance between the fence and the blade at just under 3/8. So I don't have to keep resetting the fence each time as the board gets thinner. So I run it through, and then I take the board that's still the thicker part. So the 3/8 piece I just cut, set it aside, take the other part, run it through the drum sander, flatten it again. It needs to be flat. Run it through again, and now I've got 2 pieces with one flat side and one rough side, and a thinner piece. It'll be my 1/8 inch piece with a rough side. So I have 3 pieces of lumber, all with one rough side. Run them through the drum sander, get them all down, run them through. Starting at 80, moving up to 120, down to 220, making sure I end up at a 1/4 inch, 1/8 or whatever I'm doing. Some of the stuff I do is metric, so I just set my saw to metric and do metric. But anyway, whatever thickness I'm looking to get, I run it down until it's 220, and then when I'm done, I have three or more, depending on what I'm doing, pieces that are perfectly flat, sanded to 220, and ready to go. All right, so slow and steady wins the re-saw race. So this is serious. So if the fence of your saw is only a couple inches taller or less, you want to either purchase or build an auxiliary fence, because you want that fence to be as tall as you can. My fence, I think, is like 5.5 inches, and it flips down for less than that. But you don't need to be as tall as the board you're doing, but you want it to be pretty tall if you're doing taller boards. And then I started using a feather board. It's a special feather board for re-sawn. And so it's actually a really tall feather board. I have a picture of it here coming up. I got a link to it in here too as well. And then you want to make sure you set the blade guide about 1/4 to 1/2 inch above the top of the piece. So you think of that blade, so you've got the big 13 inches of that blade sitting there. And you don't want, if I'm cutting a 5-inch board, I don't want the guides way up here. I want them way down here, because the taller that blade is, the more likely it is to waver. So you want to get them as close to the top as you can. Because you want as much blade to be in the wood. You don't want very much blade to be above or exposed so that it can move. We'll kind of see what I'm talking about here coming up. And then the trick to doing this successfully is to push steadily, slow and steady. steady, even pressure. Letting go, stopping, you cause burning. If you push too hard, you can stall out the motor, although I've never been able to stall mine out, I tried. But it's just a steady, even pressure. And we talked about the finishing, okay. So this is my actual bandsaw. And you see there's my feather board. There's a close-up of the feather board. So that is a special feather board that is designed for resawn. It actually has two heights. So this is the higher height because I was cutting a bigger board. But there's actually this top piece slides out and there's a smaller piece that slides in for lower. Because you can see we kind of get in the way. If I was using this big feather board on like a 5-inch board, it would get in the way of it could get in the way of the and that's what I'm talking about, where you see the right here. Those are the guides, and that's the guide part that moves up and down. So these guides, I always have to adjust whenever I change the height. It's not a big deal, it's just a little internal knob. Like I said, so that's my actual setup, ready to go.
You adjust both the guides above and below?
No, the bottom guides never need to be adjusted.
Oh, okay.
Once you adjust those once, I check them every now and then, I've never had to adjust them. But when you move that, when you move this guy up and down, those ones get off and I have to adjust them.
Okay.
It just takes a second.
Yep.
See, there's a crank there that you crank and then they tighten it down, so. Alright. So actually, I have a video of me actually resawing a board. That we'll play here real quick and you'll see the process, how it goes through. This is about a 10-inch board. And this is actually that monkey pot I talked about, which I absolutely hate, but it did resawed okay. But you can see the feather board's keeping it tight against the fence. And I'm just slow and even pressure.
Is the thin part that you're cutting to the fence, is that on the inside or the outside?
It's on the inside.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's your 1/8 inch or your 3/8 inch
My 3/8 inch, right.
is on the inside.
Right, because then I don't have to reset the fence every time.
You go that slow on all of your boards?
You have to when you're resawing, yeah.
Something
As you think about it, that's a 10-inch board, how much material that blade is removing? That is removing a ton of material. And my saw is, it's going, but you can hear it, it's working. I don't have this volume on here, you'll just hear my dust collector, but that motor is humming. And it takes a ton of power to move through a board that big. But
How many
anyway,
teeth per inch and what is the width of the blade?
3/4.
3/4. Now I got one of those delta saws and typically I'm just using that 1/4 inch blade.
Right, and your saw may not take a 3/4 inch blade, it may only do a 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
Depending on the saw, 3/4 is as wide as mine will take. But you can get resaw blades in a 1/2 inch.
Yep.
But you want, the wider the blade, the better the result you're gonna get, because it's less likely
Yeah.
to move.
Wander. And teeth per inch, maybe 6?
2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Oh, 2 to 3?
Yep.
Wow.
So that's why it's not a real smooth cut.
Yeah.
And then you hear, so now I get to the end and I don't want to take my fingers off. You can use a push block. I just rock around the other side and I pull it through. But again, it's that steady, smooth pull, because what happens if you push too hard, it'll cause the blade to wander.
Yeah.
If you don't push hard enough, it'll cause it to burn.
You ever have a problem with the wood coming together in the back and tying it?
Nope. Nothing that I haven't, because I'm really not grabbing it that hard. I'm grabbing it way at the end and the feather board is pushing it before it gets to the blade, so it kind of keeps it, yeah.
Oh.
You got a link to the feather board?
Yep,
Okay,
it's in here.
all right.
All right, so we're almost done here. So after you've done, you've cut your board, you serviced them, cupping is a real problem. Because you think about it, wood's dry, it's been dried to 7-11%, whatever it is. You're releasing a lot of moisture. You can actually see it behind the blade. You'll actually see a water line behind the blade as you're cutting, depending on what you're cutting. And so I've surfaced that board, I got ready to go. It's gonna wanna start to cut towards that cut side. There's a couple different things you can do. If you've got 2 boards that you cut, you can put them together, clamp them together overnight. That'll help prevent cupping. You can place it out with spacers, let it dry
Sticker.
over time. Stickers, yep, stickers. Or what I'll do is, I'll stick a bunch of them together and I take a little shrink wrap, if I'm not gonna use them for a while, and I shrink wrap them tight, and that's easier to prevent cupping. Or what I do most of the time, I just work through it. Because with quarter inch cups don't matter. It's a pain to work with sometimes, but it doesn't cup so bad that I can't overcome it. And usually what'll happen is if I'm using it as cupped, this quarter inch, if I put it on my workbench and put some weights on it, after about an hour, the cup goes out. It'll come back, but it goes out long enough that I can cut my piece. And then when I assemble it, I just compensate for the cup. You know, I use something to stiffen it, because quarter inch is just like. Yeah, the cup is usually pretty minimal, but once I do cut that, you know, like I said, once I get my board cut and I'm at that close to 3/8, I run it through the drum sander till it's down to a quarter, it's ready to use. Yeah, that's it. Then with the drum sander, you know, it's down to 220. I attach my pattern, cut it, hit it with a little 320, and I'm done.
So when you cut that 12-inch board, do you try to use it right away before it starts cupping, or doesn't really matter?
It depends. Usually when I'm doing something that wide, well, the thing is, when you're doing fret work, if you got a little bit of cup, by the time you put the fret in, you can easily pop that cup right out because it's so weak, you know, and it's just a little bit of a cup. Usually, when I put something together, let's say I make it a quarter, I just push them together and glue it, and it's gone. Yeah. But yeah, the wider boards, like for this last project that I'm doing for State Fair, I had some 13-inch wide boards, and actually I glued them up because I didn't have anything that wide, and they cupped a little bit, but I just pulled it out, glued it down, it's fine. So that's just it depends what you're making. I mean, the wider boards are gonna cup worse than the narrower boards. Yeah, that's the way it goes. So that's it, that's re-sawn. Is everyone ready to go start re-sawn?
Oh, yeah.
So, like I said, it's one thing too, is that it's practice. When I started out, I was getting 2 quarter-inch boards out of a 3/4 inch board. It just takes a little bit of practice. Just get out there, give it a shot. And yeah, if you have questions on it or you're not sure what to do, reach out. I'm more than happy to help. But it's interesting. It's like I said, it's the only way I can get the lumber I need to make the stuff I'm making. So. Yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Troy. That's good information. I know I've tried to resaw a few things, but maybe not over about 4 inches on that delta. And that fence is only like this high, so if you really wanted to go higher, you'd have to do something.
Yep, you can. There's all kinds of patterns up there to make an auxiliary fence. The main thing is calibrate your saw because it makes all the difference.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Anyone else want to go to the Girl Scout thing, see me, or if you need a name thing, see me.
Up for it, you know?
Yeah.
You got plenty of wood out there.
All right. Danny, how are you?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not that hard to make.
Well, I've done a little resawing.
Yeah, they wanted